So the first guy we're here talking about is Gardner Minshew, taking on that Jaguars defense, ranks 25th against opposing quarterbacks. Minshew is in a good position to take it to his former team. While I don't always believe in the revenge type of narratives, I do believe that there can be some extra motivation added to games. Minshew has been very serviceable when given the opportunity to start. Just earlier this season, Minshew was allowed to throw 44 times against the Ravens defense. The Jaguars is not a very good defense as the Ravens has. So if you are in need of a quarterback this week, then there's a pretty good chance that Minshew is sitting on the bench just waiting to be picked up. Insert Minshew into your lineup and get ready for some Minshew mania. Next quarterback we're going to talk about here is Kirk Cousins, taking on that Bears defense, ranks 31st against opposing quarterbacks. Yes, Kirk Cousins has lost his main man, Justin Jefferson, and yes, I still have him as a start this week. Cousins is going up against an awful secondary and still has at his disposal rookie Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and a very serviceable wide receiver in KJ Osborne. Look for everyone to eat this week, as he is not going to be just focusing on throwing to Jefferson as that one target. I can see a real blow-up game here for Kirk Cousins here. Two bad teams going is just going to be equaling a lot of fantasy points. Get Kirk Cousins in your lineup. The last quarterback we're talking about here today is Trevor Lawrence, taking on that Colts defense that ranks 22nd against opposing quarterbacks. On the other side of this Jaguars-Colts matchup, we do have Trevor Lawrence, who has been playing very well as of late. I see them in a battle this week as Gardner Minshew will be coming to smack his old team. Lawrence is just loaded with weapons like Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram, a lot of these guys. Just look for Lawrence to sling the ball all over the field and rack up the fantasy points this week against the Colts. Moving right along to the running back position, we're going to talk about Alexander Mattison going against that Bears defense, ranks number 30 against opposing running backs. I do like the chance of the Vikings being more balanced this week without Justin Jefferson, and that just means more carries for Alexander Mattison. He's still getting more snaps than Cam Akers. Mattison received 50% of the snaps compared to 26% last week, and while that's much lower than the 70% snap share that Mattison is used to getting earlier on in the season before Cam Akers was there, it's still double of what Cam Akers got last week. With all that said, I can see Mattison break away against this awful Bears defense. I can see Mattison as a nice flex play this week. Next running back we're talking about here is Raheem Mostert, going against that Panthers defense, ranks 31st against opposing running backs. With Devon Achane that's out of the lineup this week, Raheem Mostert looks to be the bell cow back for this offense. You should be able to see that type of workload that you saw in the first 2 weeks, with Mostert receiving around 74% of the snaps compared to Salvon Ahmed's 26%. Mostert should absolutely be able to just tear apart this Panthers run defense and what should be a fantasy gold mine. If you don't have Mostert in your lineup this week, you're pretty much just walking away this week with a loss. If he's on your bench, get Mostert in your lineup. Next running back here is Kyren Williams, going against the Cardinals defense, ranks 29th against opposing running backs. Kyren Williams has stepped in pretty nice there as a replacement for Cam Akers thus far this season. Last week he saw 13 carries for 53 yards, and this week I can see him hitting that 100-yard mark against this Cardinals defense that's really struggling to stop the run. If you're just lucky enough to land Williams while he was hot earlier on in the season, you're going to have a good time this week while he totals up some nice fantasy points for your team. Kyren Williams is an easy plug and play this week against the Cardinals. At the wide receiver position, first guy we're talking about here is Drake London, going against the Commanders defense that ranks 31st against opposing wide receivers. The good is that London is a bona fide number one option on this offense. The bad is that he has Desmond Ridder as his quarterback. How do you remedy that issue? Well, give them the Commanders secondary. This week you have to overlook the atrocious quarterback play and just accept it for what it is. You have a big body wide receiver going against the defense with absolutely no one on the other side to stop him. You should easily see a solid outing for London this week. Next wide receiver we're talking about here is Tutu Atwell, going against that Cardinals defense, ranks 22nd against opposing wide receivers. Atwell could be a nice flex play this week. While he's received half his targets that both Kupp and Nakua received last week, he still ended up with a touchdown. Atwell has the ability to be productive, as we saw earlier in the season when Kupp was out. There's an opportunity this week with Atwell against this Cardinals defense. Not only Kupp and Nakua being great play this week, Atwell is also in play. Put Atwell into your flex, and I'm sure you'll be happy with the outcome. The next wide receiver here is Christian Kirk, going against that Colts defense that ranks 24th against opposing wide receivers. Kirk started the year a little slow, but has really picked up the pace as of late. This week he gets a beatable Colts defense that should have an absolute field day against these guys. This offense looks to be clicking on all cylinders after beating the Bills last week. Kirk has shown to Lawrence to be a reliable wide receiver, going from his number 1 option last year to the number 2 option this year. Kirk, again, is an easy plug and play for me this week. Now let's go ahead and go to the tight ends here. Talk about Logan Thomas going against that Falcons defense, ranking 29th against opposing tight ends. Thomas burst on the scene last week as he had 9 receptions on a team high 11 targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. Thomas is starting to show Sam Howell that he needs to be featured in this offense. For a team still trying to find its way, it has to be kind of upset for giving the Bears their very first win of the season last week. Look for a much better performance this week against the Falcons. If you're in need of a tight end this week, Logan Thomas is a great option. Next tight end we're talking about here is Cade Otton, taking on that Lions defense that ranks 27th against opposing tight ends. This is a pick that I'm going for with those of you that are needing to have just like a dart throw at the tight end position. Cade Otton has been getting a few targets each week, and he does have an opportunity for that touchdown catch any given week. Again, this is just a play, kind of a Hail Mary type of play against the Lions defense, who hasn't really covered the tight end position very well thus far this season. If you need help and you don't have anybody else, go pick up Otton off the free agency list or off the waiver wire for this week and go ahead and put him into your lineup. Last tight end we're talking about today is Noah Fant, going against that Bengals defense, ranks 31st against opposing tight ends. Fant is going against a Bengals defense who loves to give the opportunity to the tight end position. Fant is another one of those dart throws, but I do believe that there's a strong chance that he's on your waiver wire, and he's a pretty good play if you have some problems at your tight end spot. Fant has the ability, when given the targets and against the Bengals defense, opportunity could be knocking at the door. Fant should really be a good play this week. Now on to the Bengal Tiger start of the week. The Bengal Tiger start of the week is tight end TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson is going against a Bears defense ranked 20th against opposing tight ends. With Justin Jefferson out of the picture, Hawkinson should be the main target for Kirk Cousins. Look for Hawkinson to get out to some early fantasy production, and by the end of the day, he's really going to be giving you a fantasy football win. While everyone knows there is no debate or chance that you are benching Hawkinson, he just has such an amazing matchup that there was no way for not making him my Bengal Tiger start of the week.